It is my extraordinary privilege this morning to introduce Maya Lin. Her extraordinarily wide-ranging work as an artist and an architect include both intimate gallery works and enormous environmental works that offer us a meditation on our place in the world. I know today she's going to be speaking about biodiversity and the environment, which I enormously look forward to. She's very broadly recognized and accomplished by a number of societies. The American Association of Architects has given her their highest award, as has Barack Obama given her the National Arts Award. Maya is a self-deprecating, charming, and quiet presence, but her work has this incredible confidence and a loud, clear, and ambitious voice. I can't wait to hear her this morning, and I wish you all would join me in welcoming Maya Lin. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm going to get started. I don't know if any of you have been looking at this beautiful hypnotic pattern of water, but I know it's going to lead to my next work because it is just so gorgeous. Nature pretty much inspires almost everything I do. I actually went to school thinking I was going to become a field zoologist, but on the other side, my dad was Dean of Fine Arts, so I was like casting bronzes by the time I was in high school. Waves, water have shown up in many of my large pieces, but water has flowed through all of my work. This is the wave field in Michigan. Larger yet, I work in series Storm King Wave Field in Storm King, just an hour north of the city. You can get lost in a wave. The waves roll about 18 feet high. But what you might not know is it's also a state EPA reclamation site. They were building the highway. They threw all the dirt and gravel here. They covered it, and they hid it behind a berm. So we ended up using the berm to make most of the piece. So I try to use recycled materials, reclaimed materials in all of my work, and I love it when I can actually restore what you would call a brownfield site. Just finished a site on seriously degraded farmland, turned it into an artwork where the rolls go 60 feet high in New Zealand for a private collection. It's called A Fold in the Field, and you can sort of run between the waves you can run between these 60-foot-high waves. And it all gets started because there's a very strong connection between my indoor and my outdoor work. This is called Flow. It's made out of FSC certified wood, and it again captures a simple roll of a wave, or larger yet, a piece that started at the Henry Art Gallery called 2x4 Landscape. It's 3,000 square feet. What if you could bring a hill inside, walk up it, and touch the ceiling? What we take for granted outside is a simple roll of a hill. What happens if you contain it and control it? So a lot of my art gets you to look at the world around you, or a piece for the California Academy of Sciences, what is invisible to the human eye, which again, I'm just an artist working with landscape, so one could say I'm no different from a landscape painter. It's just that we have all these technological ways of looking at the world around us, and so this is called Where the Land Meets the Sea, and it's a topographic terrain above and below sea level around the mouth of the San Francisco Bay. And so you can now eat your lunch and understand what's literally below the ocean terrain. I've also been very interested in catching the entire shape of a water system. This is, again, the San Francisco Bay, just as a body of water, as well as I'm starting to look at degraded landscapes, waterscapes around the world. This is literally the disappearance of one of our largest freshwater waters, the Aral Sea, and I took a single piece of stone, cut it, so all that's left is the uppermost layer, or the disappearance of the Arctic low ice cap, again, cut in stone. And then this piece is latitudinally, it's called Around the World times 3. It's the equator, it's the 44th parallel, which intersects Manhattan, and it's the Arctic Circle. And again, with climate change, as we talk about sea levels rising, this is literally the terrain of the ocean floor and of the land, again, all connected with the water removed. And I saw this in a New York Times shot. It's the tracking of Hurricane Sandy, and I created it as a large-scale drawing of the Pin River Sandy. Or this body of water, I try to make you aware of what's around you, is the Hudson River. But again, we tend to see a river at the point we know it. Do we worry about what's downstream from us? Maybe we worry about what's upstream from us if someone's polluting. So I try to create these recycled silver rivers that give you a sense of the entire river as a complex, connected ecosystem. And I'll be starting one for the Upper White River, which surrounds Crystal Bridges, 4 Crystal Bridges. I'm really excited. When I look at these rivers, I also trace the history from an ecological point of view to see how much they've significantly changed. And all those beautiful feathery drawn, a lot of them are dams. Just to give you an idea, when I work large scale, where I'm checking almost my identity as an artist, I've been working with the Native American tribes along the Columbia River, a 6-part installation that looks at the history of the space. Just to give you an idea, this is what national, state, and federal lands are like. A lot of parking lots, funky restrooms, and lawns. And this is what we've begun to restore. So this is Cape Disappointment, where Lewis and Clark ended, and we've been able to restore it to a natural sand dune grasslands. Or on its opposite side, that's the trail that used to be where the water's edge was. And this is what we were met with on the other side. It's going to play into my last project, What is Missing. Parking lots hiding one of the most important estuaries this country has known, the Columbia River estuary. You couldn't even see it. The hedge went 8 feet high, and they were about to build another parking lot. We got them to do a transport study, and what we convinced them to do is not build it and take away half the parking lot that was there. So I don't think we've meant to sprawl the way we've all seen it happen. I think it's just happened. But the hope is we can restore it, and nature is incredibly resilient if you give it the chance to bring it back. And as an artist, I disappear here because to me, the art is getting you back in touch with the national park you're in. And I couldn't resist. This was their fish cutting station. Again, along this estuary, I took one look at it and I said, gotta do something. So instead is a basalt cut fish cutting station table. But what I didn't know was the creation myth of the Chinook tribe whose homelands you're in is of cutting a fish the wrong way. And from the blood of the fish springs an eagle who flies to a mountain that you can see from this point. So as you cut your fish now, you get to read the creation myth of the Chinook tribe whose homelands you're in. So subtly, art can, in a way, place you, teach you about a space, connect you back to the land. And Confluence project, which I've been working on since the year 2000, and it'll take me another 3 years, it's quite complicated, gets you to that point and connects you back to nature. One site we chose because they're about to blow a dam on the Sandy River and let the Sandy River assume its natural course. And I put a bird blind. And on it we cite every single species that Lewis and Clark saw and accounted for. But we also tell you what status that species has today. Or the most sacred site, this is just a concept model, will be at Celilo Falls. More water flowed over Celilo Falls than presently flows over Niagara Falls. And it was deliberately inundated by the last dam in 1957. So we'll teach a history of that place and create a bridge that will teach you that history and leave you out on the still water, and it'll tell you what it used to sound like. So I started about, 2006, what will be my last memorial. I set up my own not-for-profit foundation. And with the simple idea, what if I could make a memorial that could jump form? What if it could be multi-sited? What if it could exist in as many places it's invited in? It's free as long as you share it. Even though I say it's my last memorial, I'll be donating to it for the rest of my life. The first iteration is on the opposite terrace at the California Academy of Sciences, the one with the wire landscape of the San Francisco Bay. And it's a very large, like RCA Victor listening cone. Kids get to sit inside it. And in it, we have films courtesy of the BBC, National Geographic, Cornell Anthology, and many other smaller groups. Over 75 films to date, 1 to 2 minutes, talk about species that are disappearing, habitats that are threatened, issues, the sounds of songbirds in our backyard. But as well, it can exist like water wherever it can flow, wherever it's invited in. So we just donated, Cornell Anthology Labs paid for the construction, and then I gave the design of a sound ring, and they get to create different multiple sound sequences. This is an empty room. You pick up one of these optic pieces, and you get to hold the species in your hands as you catch these films. We have taken over the Creative Time MTV billboard, courtesy of Creative Time in Times Square for one Earth Day. I tend to surface on Earth Days, and this is a weird project. It's wonky. It's a guerrilla art project. I've got 2 more years of formation, and I'm building it in full view. But this is what we're left with today. And if I could do anything as an artist with a slight background in memorials to help prevent these and protect habitat, I'm going to try. So of course it's not the species, but it's the habitats that are at risk. And as an artist, can I get you to think of things you might not be thinking of? The scale of species. The fact that in the 1890s, a cod was bigger than a man, and with every successive generation, we simply forgot what was there before us. So look at the dwindling size of the Atlantic cod till we basically collapsed it. Or these are bison heads. Over 65 million used to roam this country, but what you might not know is there were more sea turtles than that. And the pronghorn, which aren't listed as endangered overall, there were as many, or maybe more. So one of the key parts of it is a website, whatismissing.net. Every little dot tells you an ecological story of a place. We have things called wormholes for major cities as well as major waterways. We invite students and volunteers to help us build wormholes so you can understand an ecological history of these specific places. What you see is a lot of the cities were built along major waterways because they were massively abundant. And then over time, first there's too many, raw sewage kills off a lot. Then comes the industrial era, which is decimating. But what you see, and this is the important thing, is the hope. With the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, things come back. The Thames River is cleaner than it's been in 200 years. Seals and porpoises are arriving back. So again, as long as we can give it space and protect nature, it'll come back. You can play with it. The site is very wonky. It'll switch to HTML by December, but for now, humor me, you have to go online to get to it. And there's a little homework at the end of this assignment. Please share a memory, something you've personally witnessed diminish or disappear, or that's come back. Because I'm asking people to engage globally as part of this project, but also locally and personally. You can look at these stories both geolocated but also in time. And these are some of the stories we're finding. New York Harbor, the lobsters were 6 feet long. The oysters were 12 inches in diameter. So Richard Ellis, who's an expert, one of our advisors said, "Oh, Vanderdonk, he always exaggerated. Lobsters were only 5 feet long." But we're mining the planet and creating an ecological history, not to get you depressed that you can't do anything, but again, to leave you with the sense of wonder of what this planet had and can have again if we give it a little bit of chance. Sturgeon were so plentiful in the harbor, they were nicknamed Albany beef, and boats had to avoid running into them. This is one of my favorite stories. Someone sent this in. Photographs are really helpful. Someone sent this in of dining, I think in the 70s, on the ice in Narragansett Bay, which again hasn't formed in how many years? Or this came in from Korea about fireflies. So everywhere around us, we are quietly witnessing in our own backyards this gradual diminishment of nature. We've engaged with high school kids who get to interview their parents and their grandparents, but also do research on places. We've invited over 40 environmental groups to share what they're doing, like World Wildlife Fund. And now we're entering the last phase, which is what I call Greenprint. If the world consumed like Americans, we would need 5 planets. We are kind of over-consuming the planet. So I'm coming up with something called Greenprint. Can we envision a world that will balance our needs with the needs of the planet? And it'll be 4 parts: what you can do, save the planet diet, what ifs, and then more technical mapping the future. So these are some of the questions we'll be asking. What if we offset our entire carbon footprint by growing a forest? What if we subsidize good practices rather than bad? What if we sprawled up? So this is what an artist can do. I'm not trying to compete with all the great environmental NGOs. I'm just maybe trying as an artist to show you something in a different light. What if the entire world population lived at the density of Manhattan proper? How much space would we take up? State of Colorado. So is this really a question of just population, or is it a question of land use and resource consumption? And just remember the parking lot. I don't think we meant to do this. I just think we're probably spending more time worried where we're going to go to dinner tonight than what our kids and our grandkids are going to eat for dinner. So the power of cities, again, energy sinks. We could green our cities, and the fact is 50% of us live in these major cities, and by 2050, 75% of us will. The power to rethink those cities is what we're doing. According to the World Economic Forum, what it would take to restore and mitigate climate change, $700 billion, had to show you, these are other things we're spending our money on. If you combine the weight loss in bottled water or cigarettes, we're spending the money every single day, and in a way, we're spending our children's futures. What is the largest irrigated crop grown in America? The American lawn. What you might not realize is more gasoline is spilled every year refilling lawn equipment than was spilled at the Exxon Valdez. So maybe as an artist with a little bit of a sense of humor, or looking at it differently, we can rethink what we are doing. I know we could be eating bugs, but a lot of people say, no, we're not gonna do that. But did you know that 30% of all fish meal is ground up and fed to chickens, pigs, and fish? What are we doing? So one of the things we'll be looking at is, what if we ate 20% less meat and gave that back to protected lands? That would equal all the protected lands in all of North America and half of the protected lands in South America. And did you realize wetlands sequester 3 times as much carbon as a tropical forest? And those are the areas that are going to be more at risk. What if we actually created more buffer zones? They'd protect us as well. I know that if we're lucky, we'll move quickly on climate change, and I think it's a twofer. We can both protect habitats and species as well as take a serious bite out of climate change emissions. Just your homework is give me a memory, and thank you very much.